Hello out there. Hello out there. Welcome everybody to another live stream for our Start Strong Challenge. Dun, 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 dun. Yes. This is an exciting one because today we're going to be revealing our big twist, at least the first one. We're going to have two twists as part of this challenge. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But before I get there, I actually want to talk about AutoCrit in general. If you've never joined us here on the AutoCrit channel here on YouTube, AutoCrit really is a primary home for writers. We have our fully functioning writer's desk, which has the ability to plan out your story, get inspiration, analyze your story, write your story, compare your writing with several authors. It's all there. It's a very powerful tool. We also have our author community with all of our fun AutoCrit members. Some of them are here. Shout out to all of you. We have our academy page where I and other instructors will go in and teach you the rules of the game, ways to hone in on your craft and whatnot. And then we have author services, which allow you to get personal one on one time if you need that extra helping hand. But it is time to continue the Start Strong Challenge. Feel free as we go through this to ask any questions about the Start Strong Challenge. I have one right off the bat here. Wait, at least I didn't a second ago. Where'd it go? Is it okay to end on a cliffhanger? Yes. There is no requirement. This is going to be a short story, a very short story, that it has a conclusion. However, keep in mind the finalists are going to be voted by the YouTube audience, and I would imagine the YouTube audience may want an ending, so that's going to be up to you. So we started this whole thing asking you about your goals for 2024. A lot of you would, of course, like to write more. You'd like to write more effectively. So we put together a little challenge to give you a quick win under your belt, get you motivated. Our challenge is to write a story less than 1,000 words. That might be a challenge in and of itself for some of you, which is fine. But again, we're looking for a quick win, something fun to get started. We gave you prompts at random to begin. Now, at this point, we're 2 weeks in, so I hope you do have your story written. If you do not, if you have not written your story yet, I'd like to ask you, perhaps this may be a good time to pause, go back, watch this later, even though you could, of course, wait until you know what the twist is to write anything. It's not going to serve the challenge. It's not going to serve you as well. The challenge, the intention of the challenge is that you will be challenged by the twist, right? That you have written something and then you have to be nimble because what we're practicing is the idea that along the way, we can't get too attached to our ideas. We've got to be flexible. Still deciding if you're doing the challenge, that's okay. I mean, even if you just wrote a few hundred words, it's still words on the page. That's great. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about motivating you, right? Everything we do is about motivating you to get back to the keyboard to get productive. Plot twist coming. But not yet. I'm going to talk about the fact that there's a second twist also coming. The second twist is going to come next week. So again, if you're participating in the intention of the challenge, you will go ahead right to this twist, and then next week we're going to give you another plot twist, and then you'll have just a few days left in order to button it up, and that final draft will be due on the 21st at 10 or at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. So, think about it as a few days before that to give yourself some wiggle room because we all love to procrastinate. Yes, more reasons to procrastinate. Right. You have about 700 words, not sure about an ending other than something will be set on fire. Ooh, maybe that will have to do with our twist. I don't know. Does our twist involve fire? Maybe. Sorry, I had to plug in something over there. All right, so let's just do a little recap because I more reasons to procrastinate. I like more reasons to tease to draw this out. All right, so the object, and also just a reminder for everybody, the object is a pair of worn ballet shoes. I'm very curious to know how you're using this. Now we do get questions about it. Like, what do we mean by worn? Do we mean somebody is wearing them, or they are worn out, as in used? That's up to you. It just says worn, right? You can interpret those words as you mean. What are even ballet shoes? Is it always the same thing that we might assume? I don't know. Are they actual shoes people are wearing versus something on the statue? Yeah, I don't know. This is up to you. Okay. Your female main character, 6 feet tall. It could be another failed hobby of hers. That works. The setting is you have a picture of the net of old ballet shoes. Sure, you could have somebody looking at a picture of old ballet shoes. If you incorporate it in such a manner, though, I would hope that it matters. Like, it is something that is important to the story. It tells you something about what the person is doing. You, of course, could just throw in a lot of these prompts willy nilly and just kind of get them out of the way and then go off on your merry way. However, again, I would imagine that the YouTube audience is going to look for things that are incorporated a little more cleverly. And I will say, to get to the finalist round, judging, yes, we're looking for more clever usage than just, you just happen to have. It's like they were rummaging through their car. Oh, there's old ballet shoes. And it's like not even relevant, and you could easily delete it from the story. I would try not to incorporate things such as that. Okay. A horse named ballet dancer and his shoes are a critical part of the plot. Interesting. Interesting. All right. So this is the setting. You do not have to use these words verbatim. A campsite on the shore of a man-made lake that drowned a town and still contains the structure and the graveyard. So we've gotten questions about this. All right. This is actually a prompt that came from our community. All of the prompts came from our community. And so therefore, if you're like, what do you mean by that? Well, I don't know. I didn't even write it. I'm just putting the words on the page, right? So you can interpret those words as you wish. As long as it's a reasonable interpretation that would make sense. Sure. Because, for example, when it says it still contains the structure in the graveyard, is it referring to the campsite having structures in the graveyard or the town? I'm assuming the person meant that they drowned a town even though it had a graveyard and structures. But sure, if you want to change that, that's fine. And yeah, what does this mean? Is this actually set? It says there is a campsite on the shore of a man made lake. And so then the question is, um, do they stay there? Do they go into the drowned town? Are they looking over the drowned town and there's a flashback? I don't know. Maybe some of that will be involved in the twists. Maybe, maybe. It's actually two settings. Essentially, yes. It is a setting that involves two locations in juxtaposition to one another, isn't it? Isn't that interesting? You Googled actual lakes that fit that scenario, and there's actually a lot of them. Yes. This is not that outlandish of a scenario. And the nice thing about it is that it's certainly one that can inspire the imagination because it's kind of interesting, right? A whole town that gets wiped off the map. There's still a graveyard there, which you could take a million different ways in terms of how good that is or ethical or whatever that is, right? What kind of history that means. But on the other hand, it's not completely paranormal, right? You could go multiple different directions. It's usually how dams are made. Yes, often they are. So it could be a lake that drowned a town in a graveyard or a lake next to a graveyard. I mean, technically, when you say still contains, the assumption I would have is that the town was drowned and that still contains the structures in the graveyard. However, technically, the still is not 100% clearly connected to that. So if you wanted to pull it out and you could say the campsite still contains the structure in the graveyard, perhaps. But then if it still contains that, then the question is what else happened to that campsite? Do you see what I mean? Yes. A single setting with multiple locations. Thank you, Obi Kenobi. Again, I did not invent this setting. This came from our community. I do like it though. I'm not trying to like throw it under the bus. It's like, well, I don't do this. I actually like it because it gives a lot of opportunity to play around with things. So try to use the setting. We've been doing a lot about setting. We actually had a whole session about setting last night for a mystery. Tonight we're gonna have a whole session about setting for fantasy slash sci-fi. So if you're an AutoCrypt Pro member, maybe join us for that if you're a little bit puzzled on how to use the setting properly. All right, let's move on. The next thing that we mentioned was a verb. This verb needs to be used exactly, flambe, although you can use a different tense, people have asked. But yes, the verb flambe. How? I don't know. Now, some people are asking, can you use it as not a verb? I'll allow for that. I will allow for you using it to be the name of somebody or something. Sure. Just the word needs to be in the story. If you actually can use it as a verb, though, you kind of get some bonus points, right? Yep. Okay. So we're ready for the plot twist, right? I think so. I don't know. Are you? Are you ready for the plot twist? Before we talk about the plot twist, I just want to make sure if there's any other questions before we progress. And as I said, if you have not written up to this point, well, this is an opportunity for you to pause, take part in the challenge, write that story, and then unpause and find out what the twist is. Because again, that's the intention of the challenge. But obviously, I'm not there to look over your shoulder and see whether or not you are doing it the way that we designed it for. And it's not just designing it for you to jump through hoops, it's designing because it's a good exercise, right? All right, I'm not seeing any questions, so I guess you might as well find out what the plot twist is. Now, somebody was saying earlier that they were hoping the plot twist isn't that severe. I do not think that it is that severe. I think it's a pretty gentle plot twist. It is early in the year. We don't want to be too crazy. The plot twist is and it's going to be defined further. So before you panic, listen to the whole twist. So the twist is betrayal. Yes. The story needs to involve betrayal in some way. Now you might be like, "Hold on, I only have like one person in my story." Just it's something relied upon that fails the main character. All right. So this could be a lot of different things. All right. I'm giving you a lot of wiggle room. But this is something relied upon that fails the main character and it should be important. So this could be a piece of technology that fails the main character. This could be a something that they relied upon as a truth that fails the main character. And somebody in their life that failed them that could be something that or somebody that they relied on they failed them. I figured some people would already have it. Some people are like, not a twist for me. I already had that. How is this possible? This is always the case unless you do something very outlandish as a twist. The main character has to be betrayed. They can't betray someone. Well, they can, but they still have to have something that they relied upon that fails them. All right. So if they betrayed somebody else, you need to make sure that something failed them in a betrayal fashion. And again, it doesn't have to be a person. It could be a school, it could be something they always believed in. It could be like I said, a piece of technology or something like that. Now, for a fair amount of you, you might actually have something like this already. Adam says that they do, and they're going to go deeper. Well, yes, this gives you an opportunity to expand on that. Perhaps you already have something like this, but lean into a little bit more since, of course, this is the twist and people are going to be looking for it. I'll be looking for it as I judge. And yeah, the audience is going to be looking for it in the finalists there. Oh, this is a very good question. How soon can this happen? All right. So let's go into a little bit more about how you might incorporate a twist. And this is honestly just a good exercise in general. It's a good idea when you're writing to just think of twists. And I don't even mean like think of twists like that fit your story. Just think of things that could potentially happen, like a betrayal or whatever, a piece of news or a uh well, I could say a imposter or something, but that's often a betrayal as well. Um but we're going to ask ourselves these questions when we incorporate plot twists. How does it affect the tension of the story? Right? Generally speaking, twists that make the tension that heighten the tension are good ways of going about things. So you want to lean into that. So is this betrayals should in fact affect tension, right? It should make things worse. It should create dramatic intrigue. So if you're throwing this in just to appease me or the rules of the game, it's not going to get you a lot of mileage. You really want to think of, all right, what is something that they were relying upon and now they don't have that's going to raise the stakes in the situation. So, yes, go ahead and do that. You want to get at the core of their character motivation if you can, especially in a situation such as this. You don't have a lot of words, right? You only have 1,000 words, and you don't really want something that's going to completely derail everything, right? Just because I told you to. So you want to think about what they were motivated by. This is going to be potentially an additional obstacle. If you didn't have this already, this is going to be an additional obstacle. So you should think of, okay, what is the character trying to accomplish? What is something that could fail them that would make it much more difficult to accomplish what it is they were setting out to do? And like I said, you can think about it in a lot of different ways. You can think about this as a person they relied upon that turns out to be unreliable or even working against them. It could be information they relied upon that is working against them. It could be objects they're relying upon that are working against them. Lots of possibilities. But again, don't just throw it in for the sake of making things interesting. I would say get at it on a deeper level in terms of how it affects their ultimate goal, right? Don't just make it an annoyance or something to mess with just for the sake of creating some excitement. You see what I mean? You'll have to play this aspect up. Yeah, I figured when I wrote this twist that that was more or less going to be what would happen for a lot of people, that they would have something similar to this and this would just raise the temperature. But my hope is that this will help you realize that you have a lot of, I call it free money on the ground. Like a lot of times you have these sort of things at your fingertips and you don't push them hard enough. And in this exercise, by pushing it a little bit harder, you might realize that, whoa, I can actually write way more dramatic scenes than I thought, or I could get way more into the tension than I expected. The ballet slippers betrayed them. That too subtle? It could be. It depends on what you mean by that, right? If they gave out just when you needed them most, and that really matters in the story, no, I wouldn't think so. If it's like it kind of kicks things into motion, maybe not. Did I say the 21st? I keep saying I meant the 28th. I apologize. The 28th, yes, because that's before the second plot twist, right? Next week, next week, the 23rd, well, we're going to give the plot twist, and then you'll have the next twist. You just realize your personal plot twist could be much more profound. Exactly. This was my hope. My hope was that this wouldn't completely derail what you were doing, but get you to go deeper. Um, the next twist might be a little bit more of that. So just warning you. But this one I thought was let's get deeper. And the other thing too is I want you to get very attached to something and deeper so that when I pull the rug out, no, I'm just kidding. The next one shouldn't be too bad either. But just be prepared, be nimble. That's the whole point of all of this. Okay. You might want to go back and foreshadow. Now, some people are asking when we can do that. I'm going to talk about where you can place it in a minute. But imagine this is about halfway. For a lot of people, if they're going to make this the crux of the scene and it's really huge, you're probably going to put it about in the middle of this story, which means you might want to build up to it. and you can build up to it in various ways. If it's a piece of technology they need and it's going to break down on them, you need to show their reliance on it. If it's a person, you need to show their reliance on it. Basically, no matter what, you need to show the reliance on this thing that is going to fail them so that the failure really hits you in the gut. Now you could say, well, Daniel, if I start the story and I'm very like, I'm so happy that I have my handy dandy flashlight with me, if and you're like, well, yes, isn't that going to be very telegraphy? Yes, I'm not saying that. When I say foreshadow, no, I don't necessarily mean hitting the audience with the 2x4. The way you can avoid this is by dramatizing and not summarizing. You show the person doing the thing in just a matter of fact way so we understand, oh, this has a high value to them. As soon as you start putting a button on that and you're like, oh, it's so great that I have this thing with me, isn't it? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yes, of course, we're waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? But if you just show them utilizing the thing, interacting with the person, all of those things, then no, that could in fact kind of feel like it's coming from left field. Now, I understand, obviously, in the context of this challenge, we know that this is going to happen. So we're not going to be fooled by this plot twist. But even so, we might be fooled by what specifically is the betrayal depending on how you write it. So think about that too. Think about the fact that if you can surprise this audience who are knowing a betrayal is going to happen, but they don't know from where, you could make it quite interesting. Somebody was asking, what is the plot twist? Oh, but they can't listen because they're at work. So if I say it, it's not going to matter. So yes, thank you for putting that in the chat. The 2x4. Yeah. I need to like totally like get a 2x4 from Home Depot just like as a prop. Although that's a little big for it to show on the screen. I need like a smaller piece. All right. Yes, don't break your story. At least don't initially break your story. You might be like, Daniel, there is no way that I can incorporate a betrayal without ruining everything. First of all, I doubt that's true. But second of all, really think about it before you do that. Ask yourself, okay, there's got to be something that the character was really relying on that can mess up, and that's not going to destroy the whole story. I wouldn't think so. So don't just immediately be like, ah, I got to start over. Even if you don't know how to elegantly integrate this, really sit with it, really ask yourself those questions. Again, if you get back to the character motivation and you can ask yourself, what are the things that could go wrong that could fail the character um, in a big, in a major way? What are those things? You might come across something. So let it sit. Let it sit. And remember, it can happen at any time. So somebody was asking, could the betrayal happen in the past? Yes. It's something that fails the main character. Yeah, so that's okay. It could be something that immediately starts out with it. So you could start it out with something they were relying upon is failing them right that second, and that's the moment we begin. It could be that the failure happens at the end. Somebody was asking if you could have a cliffhanger. Sure, you could have it end tragically where the thing they relied upon fails right at the end and we don't see the impact. If you want to go pretty dark or scary or sad, sure, it can happen at any time. There is no requirement as to when the failure takes place. It just happens at some point in the story. Whoa, you might have an idea now. Perfect. That was my goal. So I'm not going to spend a lot more time because I know you're anxious to get back to writing, but I do want to let you know about some events we have coming up. We have the we have the plot craft workshop. We do have a romance thing coming up in a second I'm going to talk about. We have the plot craft becoming a plot builder workshop. So you can join that. That's going to be a little bit different in that we actually have Gareth on deck. I know, very exciting. Gareth is typically our horror expert, but he's going to take a little break from horror and he is going to just speak about writing in general. And he has so many brilliant ideas, and often we don't get a chance to hear his brilliant ideas just about writing in general. So for those of you who are interested in Garrett's expertise but are not interested in horror, this is a rare chance to hear from him on that. So that is going to be very exciting. And it begins this evening. I like this question. What if there are multiple things that could be interpreted as betrayal? That's okay. But I would say you should have one fairly big one. Remember, you're only doing 1,000 words. So if you're throwing in too many things going wrong, you may not be getting as much bang for your buck, not for every word on the page and every conflict. I do generally recommend more conflict is better than less conflict, but for the sake of 1,000 words, often it's better to go deeper than to add. And it could be the reason for the story inciting incidents that's not contained in the story. Yes. It could be something that is not contained in the story. However, well, it has to be contained in that I have to know that that betrayal happened, but it doesn't have to happen in real time. No. But if it's like just kind of a passing mention, it's like, well, ever since the divorce and whatever, it's like, yeah, that's obviously kind of hitting that checkbox, but that's not really the spirit that the plot twist is intended, right? It's intended to be bigger than that, not just a little aside that happened to the character. And again, I would think it is going to matter when it comes down to the audience picking their winners because they're doing it too. The fun thing about this is that usually whoever picks the winner is somebody who did the challenge too. So what you're hoping for is somebody who's going to say, "Wow, they did that better than me." And in order to do that, well, you need to do it better than they did, right? You need to think of the suggestions and utilize it in a more clever way than they thought. Not just write something compelling and sort of ignore the instructions. Um, it's also probably not gonna make it to the final, even though it's technically valid. It's not going to, like, be rejected as not following the rules, but it's probably not gonna make it one of the finalists if it's too minimized. Because, yes, the point of it is to follow the prompts. Okay. Paranormal Workshop. Another wonderful workshop coming your way. This one is from Kara Crescent, our award-winning romance author who does some great romance work for us. She's done Penning Passion, our romance course, and paranormal romance is totally in her wheelhouse because that's what she writes and she's won awards for. So that is going to be a really fun workshop. But really, we're going to go even further than that. And I just want to announce this is kind of a new thing we haven't announced yet. We have a whole romance writing package. So we have 5 different, um, well, really 6 different learning opportunities about the world of romance. So we're going to have the character chemistry workshops, which are going to be with me. That's for relationships that are love, hate, so positive, negative. We're gonna have the Penning Passion romance course. We have the paranormal romance course, the love scenes workshop. Those last 3 are with Kara Crescent, and romance plot craft, which is with me, where we go through the beats of romance. So this is something that you can get all together. Now, some of you are already all access pass members. Shout out to you. You're going to get that anyway. So these are just great things you're going to be able to sign up for in a little bit. But yes, we have this romance writing package, which allows you to get all of this together at more than 50% off. And so it's just a wonderful place to get a whole big bundle of romance in your life. It is right in time for Valentine's Day. And of course, romance is one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing genre out there. So yeah, get involved. And even if you don't write the romance genre, a lot of us write romance subplots. A lot of us want to write about characters hitting it off in various ways, right? Chemistry, all of those things, right? A lot of the things that are involved in a romance also are involved in a buddy story or all kinds of other stories. So keep that in mind. You got the golden ticket. I love it. I got the golden ticket. Yeah, some of you got the golden ticket. All right. Now, for all of you AutoCrit Pro members, tonight we have in the sci-fi/fantasy club, we're going to be discussing setting. So for those of you who are maybe intrigued by the setting in the challenge, but not sure how to utilize it the best, we're going to discuss ways to develop setting. Tomorrow at 6 p.m., I actually have Gareth is going to be handling our Hook 'em Live. So Hook 'em Live is interesting. What we do is we ask everybody to give the opening line of the book, and then the answer is, are we hooked or are we not? It's pretty simple. Did you get our attention? Are we on board or do you need some work? The other thing too is, what are you promising us? What kind of story do we think it is? Did you intend, is it the way that you intended? You might have a great hook and we're like, oh, we can't wait to read this delicious mystery, right? We're totally on board for this steamy romance. And you're like, actually, that's not what I was writing. So it's always a fun little activity. This is any genre. It's open for any AutoCrit Pro member. So check that out. Although you do want to submit your hook line in advance. So if you haven't, go to the calendar. There's a link there to find out how to get involved and all of that. But certainly just come and watch everybody else, right? You get a lot of fun tips about how to open reading listening to the feedback from others. Accountability Club. Yes, Catherine every week leads our accountability clubs at 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern on Mondays. Just a great way to kick off your week. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I wanted to know if anybody has any questions or comments or concerns about the challenge or what I presented today. Please go ahead and let me know. As I stated earlier, next week we are going to be giving you the final twist. It's the final twist. Oh, I better not. I'll get like pulled from YouTube. That was parody. Okay, fair use. Um, but yes, we will be giving the final twist for the Start Strong challenge. Oh, this is a good question. Are the romance courses only workshops, or do they have assignments like Fiction Forge? They do have assignments. Workshops, particularly, will have assignments. Yeah. And the way that the workshops work, so like the love and hate workshops, is the first session I'm going to be giving kind of these are the ways to form a relationship. And then in between the first and the second, I'm going to ask you to submit some dossiers and things like that. And then the second session, I'm going to be doing some real time feedback on those. When it comes to Penning Passion, the course, there are exercises throughout that you can participate in and give feedback to the other people taking the course as well. And of course, whenever you can hop on, you can always ask questions of the instructor. And I know that for the paranormal romance and for the love scenes workshops, during the actual time of the workshops, which again, you can watch the replay later, there are little exercises to do as well. So obviously, it's best if you can be there in real time. You might get some real time feedback in the workshops, but you'll also just get some fun exercises to do on your own no matter what. So yeah, it's not just a video to watch and learn. We have application, real time application and ways to practice everything. All right. You're adding so much more content in the accountability club with other writers. It's so fun. Yes, it is. And that's why we do a lot of this, right? We could just be out there throwing up videos and articles and all of that. We really like the real-time interaction. That's why we do so much live, like this channel. If you like getting involved in these challenges, like, subscribe, hit the bell. We do challenges throughout the year. And of course, we also have interactive events even on here where we talk about basic tips about writing as well. Writing can be a lonely journey, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't. And that is our goal in life. And so, of course, if you're an AutoCrit Pro member, you have all kinds of events you can join. In fact, in just a couple minutes, at 2 p.m. Eastern, you can join me, and that's kind of our AutoCrit Power Hour, where you can just ask us any questions about the writer's desk, what's going on in the AutoCrit world. You can give us suggestions for things for us to do in the future. It's just a great way for us to keep in touch with the community. So for those of you who are AutoCrit Pro members, I'll see you over there. For everybody else, you can get back to writing, right? I gave you your twist. You're you're chomping at the bit to get back to the keyboard. I don't want to waste your time. Keep going. Start strong. 2024. It's going to be an amazing year. It's your year. I feel it. I want to be part of it. Stay tuned to this channel. Let us know about all the amazing projects you're working on. And I cannot wait to read all of the submissions for Start Strong Challenge in just a little bit of time. I know it's getting close. So keep working at it, everybody. We're almost to the finish line. Your first big project of 2024, perhaps. And yeah, of many more, of many more. Like I said, it's going to be your year. So I'll see you around, everybody. Bye. You have a wonderful day.